Molly Sanyar, coming to you live from Molly Sanyar Ceramic Studio here in Adair Park, Atlanta, Georgia. And today I'm going to be throwing some 7-pound balls of clay. Today I'll be using the black Molly Sanyar ceramic speedball bats. I love them because not only did we partner together to bring you the black aesthetic of their awesome speedball bats, but just that, they're awesome because these plastic bats have double diameter to fit most wheels. So I use the ones with the 3 dots on the side, they go on there. Let's make sure my wheel is on. So if you're tuning in live with me, hang out, settle in. I'm here to answer questions and we'll see what we make. I wanted to do this because I've had some students talking about wanting to throw bigger. Ultimately, you do need more clay. And you just kind of do everything the same as you would normally. It just takes a little bit longer. You have to be a little bit more patient, but doing every step. And don't try to go bigger until you can manage a handful and throw a perfect cylinder. If you can't throw a perfect cylinder from a handful of clay, then don't try to throw a huge perfect cylinder. Oop, my tools in the bucket over here. I do like to cone my clay up and down a few times. It helps me kind of see what it's doing. If there's any inconsistencies or air bubbles, it's kind of like wedging on the wheel and helps get the clay more consistent, work out any air bubbles or inconsistencies. You kind of see as you cone up and down how smooth the clay is going, or if there are lumps and bumps. This feels pretty good. So I'm going to center this now, anchor my left elbow. And even when you go tall, you're trying to get your centering low and wide, because ultimately whatever this is, if it's tall, it needs an established interior base. So I'm going to open. My left hand's keeping it steady. I'm thinking right now, how much clay do I want to trim off the bottom of this later? And I'm pulling my fingertip towards me, deciding how wide to make it. And now that I have a bottom, I'll reach in and smooth it, compressing it also. When you thin the clay out wide and thin, like along the bottom of this interior bit of the clay, it wants to maybe get a nest crack later or have an issue. So by compressing it as it spins, this is just a wrung out sponge. So you have to kind of squeeze it over here in my bucket till it's yellow again, squeeze it all the way out. And then while it's spinning, I can reach the center and then come over here to 3 o'clock and then back to center. And this is making sure that the bottom is smooth. Now I can add some water. The right hand, it is reversed because I want to see your comments. If you've got them, drop them in, which I guess I should tap that they're on live. I put a sponge over my right fingers. The right hand becomes the boss. I'm anchored, and you always should see, if you're using the black Molly Sanyar ceramic bats, you should see a black line at the base of your clay because that's where you're getting the meat of your clay. I put a sponge over those fingertips so that as I'm anchored here in my hip, these fingertips can press. I'm at 3 o'clock, and then the inside hand is there to meet it. You're basically applying pressure here, here, and on top at this first pull to really get the height going. So it looks like this. I'm squeezing, letting the clay move and rotate before my hands come up together. And if you just notice that my left hand, the inside hand, dropped on. See how it's got a little wobble? Because there's a little off-center part that kind of worked itself out there. So I'm just going to kind of anchor on that and let it rotate, rotate, rotate. And see that off-center bit just ripped itself off. You recycle that later. And then pull again. When you're going for height, the most important part is to do it gradually, getting this thick clay from the bottom, really squeezing, more so than you probably think. If you're struggling to throw taller, you probably just need to also squeeze harder. And then you just want to be patient that you're gradually getting that clay moved up. You don't want to squeeze it really hard and have a thin spot, and then the thin spot's trying to hold the weight of the clay up above it. Add a little bit more water. Make sure it's wet. And then again, the inside hand is right there, flat along the bottom interior curve, right there. Meanwhile, this hand, and now that it's big, see this flared clay, that's what I want to get to, whether it's a knuckle, whether it's fingers, whatever it get that clay. I can use both hands to really lean on that clay, get that clay, but you don't want the clay to fall over itself, so you kind of have to come up with it. Inside hands are right there to squeeze back. And then this is where you've got to let the clay rotate before your hands move up together. You've got to squeeze the clay. And then see that, how it came over? As soon as you can connect your hands, connect them. And as you get to the top, you kind of are able to relax that pressure. Compress your lip at the top. Rotate, rotate, slow release. Okay, I'm going to clean my sponge off. And at this point, I know I want to make a big vase of some kind, but before I even start shaping it or thinking about the vase, I just have to get the clay moved up. If you were to slice this in half right now, hi, who's that? Noah, hi Noah. If I was to slice this in half right now, it's really thick down here and thin. So before you start shaping it, just get it thin enough. Some people at this height like a knuckle to get in there to really get that clay. Whatever it takes, just get the clay from the bottom. Inside hand's there to squeeze the meat of that clay back because it's thick down there. I'm still squeezing. And this is where I tell myself it's like the rule of thirds. The bottom third you're squeezing. Now I'm in the middle third, so I'm really relaxing compared to the base. Now I'm at the top third, so it's really not squeezing much at all. Just finishing the pull all the way to the top. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Slow release. Gonna compress my bottom one more time because I see some water, so I'm just gonna reach in always while it's spinning. Elbow stays up because you don't want to open the lip, because then you have to close it back again. All right, let's do another pull. We're basically pulling until we don't have this flared out clay, until we have all the height that we can get. Now the inside, if it's dry, it will get stuck, so I'm just running this wet sponge over the surface. Okay, now let's get the meat of this clay. Squeezing at the base. Now here's where my next trick or tip comes in, right here. Do you see how the outside hand kind of has this like bubble of clay happening over it? Well, that's because right now the inside hand is up just above the outside hand. The inside hand's kind of stretching that clay outwards, and then the outside hand is coming straight up underneath of it. And that little stretch from the inside hand, look, connecting as soon as possible to give me that connection. That little stretch from the inside hand out thins the clay and allows that outside hand to kind of scoop up underneath of it. So that's what, like when I no longer am just like squeezing the clay and getting the height, I'm really trying to make sure that that inside hand is stretching the clay, and then this outside hand comes in underneath of it, keeping the vertical. So see this? Gotta get that, that's the height. You wanna see a black circle at the base of your clay. If you're using a black Molly Sanders like that, this arm goes straight up. Don't knock your lip. And this is the important part. This is the patient part. Grab the clay. Do not raise that inside hand until the clay starts to move. Now the inside hand stretching out above the outside hand. The outside hand's guiding the clay right back underneath of it. And it's kind of getting dry, so I'm going to release, but come right back on right there. Scooping under where I'm pressing out. As soon as this thumb can connect, it will. And then there we go. We kind of got to the top there. Now you would want to straighten this up just a little bit because, again, before you start shaping, it's just nice to have an evenly thick form. So I might attend to this part right here right now. If it gets really narrow in one spot, that's up to you to kind of figure out your pressure. Were you pressing too hard on the outside hand? And then was the inside hand not really there to keep its structure? So now that looks a little bit more straightened up. Not really from the inside. So a little bit of water. I'm gonna coat the inside too, so it's not sticky. And then this is the fun part. Kind of once you've gotten that height, now you kind of really think about form. And what I love about throwing like a big vase is it kind of happens on its own, kind of. You take this rounded edge rib tool here, and I'll take a metal rib because the metal rib will help scoop off the slip and make it a little firmer. Maybe I'll do one more pull. And I do have these new Tortuga tool sponges. They are different colors, but the same. And they're like little makeup brushes, and they are nice to pull. So I'm gonna do one more pull. So you can stretch just this clay wall out just a little bit more. And this is where I could literally do it with my eyes closed because it's about feeling the clay. If it feels thicker, squeeze it. If it feels thinner, relax. Like right there, I'm just gonna hold it and rotate, rotate. Then we're gonna come here and hold it. Because the inside's a little bit not as continuous. On the inside, it's a little bit like, so just letting that inside hand hold steady to the wall of that clay. Make my way to the top. And this pass is really for me to ensure that my walls are evenly thick from the inside out. Thanks for joining me live. I'm Molly Sanyard here from Molly Sanyard Ceramic Studio, where I love teaching clay. We have our 8-week classes, which are my favorite. We just opened not even a year ago here in Atlanta. So we're also offering our one-time workshops. I feel like that sponge prevented me from really feeling it. I'm gonna grab this clay, I'm gonna stretch it with this inside hand. And we're just gonna do one more pull. So we've been doing the 8-week classes. We end with an art show, it's my favorite part. And then we have the one-time teas. You know, you can't really do everything with clay in one time. So we have one-time try-it nights. And then we have a variety of other classes. All right, let's get into shaping. So the inside hand's gonna press out into the rib tool patiently. And you don't wanna make the bottom too wide on that first pass. You kind of wanna do everything gradually. So I'm stretching out with the inside hand. I'm looking at like, well, how much of a neck do I want up here? How much of a belly do I want? And I want more. So this is when I'm now going to take this rib tool, see how it's curved, to meet against this rib tool. And the two curves will make a nice, into each other. Even though I might just want this more angular. Now, I was doing a smaller series of these kind of forms where in my head I was looking at them as like collared forms, like this would be the neck and the shoulders, and like creating a separation to allow for what would be like a collar. Now I'm really looking at my live here, the screen, and kind of seeing the silhouette that's coming to life here. I'm lifting up under this rib. And this is where if I had a torch, I would kind of give it a little torch, a little firmness, so I could really shape on it. And now I can also like consider putting a lid or putting handles or putting a little bit more volume down here. Maybe I will. Looking, I think we could do a little bit more. Now sometimes I like to put a little volume there and then bring it back in. And then bring it back out. And around this. See how slow. And then I'm going to kind of lift up. Look at my silhouette. Oh yeah. All right, so this is where you could overlap. Like I've got this great volume but this neck, I kind of want to push on it a little more. So what I might do is set it aside and come back to this neck in a little bit. And this is another reason I love these bats, because I can just pick it up and put it aside and come right back to it. After this dries a little bit, I'll have a little bit more body to it and dryness, so I can shape on it a little more. Right now it's pretty wet from having just thrown it. So, gotta be patient, which is challenging. And now I'm also doing a time lapse of this process, so I kind of want to see what it's looking like over here. A little blurry. I wonder why it was blurry. There we go. Okay, let's do another one. I like that one though. Now also, when you're throwing, you always throw to match. You throw the inside of how you want the outside to look. Oh, I love my coffee over there. All right, we got 7-pound ball of clay. Now, if there are creases on the bottom, I will kind of give that a little rolling, just so that now as it sticks against, there's no crevices. It will just kind of meet nicely. Turning up and down to work out any inconsistencies that might be hiding in the clay. You can kind of see some diagonal twists in the clay. You really want to see nice horizontal patient lines. So I'm just patiently letting the clay rotate, coming all the way to the top, hold it, rotate, 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 and then slowly I'm going to push it down. Left hand is the one keeping this centered. The right hand's kind of driving the clay back down, but the left hand's here to say keep centered. As I anchor up on the bat, you'll see a black line at the base. See right there? Right there. When you know that you're anchored up, that left hand, then you kind of open up these pinkies so you can press the meat here against it from my forearm into the clay. And then the right hand's just holding the top flat. And then when I get it just where I want it, hold it, rotate, rotate, rotate. Slow release. And I'll open it. And then again, I'm thinking another kind of vase form. Also looking at that one of how can I decorate it? How can I make this more fun? This one I'm holding on steady, opening the inside, getting it where I want it, rotate, rotate, rotate. Watch this. I could go ahead and squeeze this and pull it up, see that? Because it's just a matter of applying the pressure to the inside and the outside of the clay. So that's like an open and a pull. But when I compress this bottom, if you were to cut this bottom, it's very much like a bowl. It's very curved. So I'm gonna compress the bottom. Make sure it's flat. Compress. Bring this back in, because if it's gotten wide and you're trying to get height, and if you're watching this, be like, how can I throw bigger? That's one thing. See how I just brought it in so it stays like a volcano? As soon as this gets wide, it doesn't want to get tall. And then the next thing, see this flared out clay? You need to start right on that. You should see the color of your bat. I love the Molly Sander black speedball bats. And you want to get that clay. Now this first pull, because it's low to the ground, this thumb can get involved in the squeezing of the clay. You're squeezing it from the inside against the inside hand. Squeezing it from the outside against the inside hand. And then the outside hand is the boss, meaning it's gathering the clay back up and in. Rotate, rotate. You're not letting the inside hand be the boss and press it out. Swayze! Guys, we're offering a class not on Valentine's Day, but the day before. So if you're in Atlanta, come get your Ghost Patrick Swayze moment on. All right, I'm really pressing this clay, really pressing it. Really pressing it, just kind of moving with it, coming up, holding it steady, letting it rotate. And the speed is really dictated by your comfort level. If it's feeling out of control, slow down. If it feels in control, but you just need a little more umph, then speed it up. You don't want your hand to stick. So again, this flared out clay, that's my height. Get that clay. Whether it's a knuckle, some people do that, and you like lean it against, and or it's your thumb, or it's your hand, whatever it takes. I like my fingertips, because I can really dive into that clay. See, both hands are really pressing, because I'm pressing hard to get that clay up. Now that inside hand's gonna be right back against it. And watch this, when they both squeeze together, then the clay really starts to move. Now see that little bubble that's happening over top of my outside hand? That's actually my inside hand stretching the clay outward. And then allowing the outside hand to come right back up underneath of it to guide that clay up. No, the reason I like to throw a vase out of a tall form, this was 7 pounds, is because when you start to stretch the walls of the clay out, when you start to give them volume for a nice vase form, then you thin the walls. And when you thin the walls, it gets lighter. Thick walls, it's heavier. So by kind of taking this form and stretching the walls outward, creating that big volume, belly, shoulders, whatever, it actually thins the walls and makes the whole thing lighter and more volume. Bringing out my sponge, I will go in with my hand straight up so that I don't knock the lip. And compress the bottom, get some of the water out. And like we don't love these kind of twists and bubbles happening, so before I do the next like official pull, try to really move the clay, sometimes what I'll do is put this vertical wall right here against the inside and then put these 4 fingers stacked against each other and go whoosh. So I'll make 4 little ridges, 1, 2, 3, 4, all holding that clay just beneath the issue spot, and I'll just let it rotate. And then I come up and I just let it rotate. And then that flat surface on the inside is kind of compressing that inside surface. And see these little ridges? It's really helping just to strengthen my cylinder. I like to tell my students that clay is a lot like life. If you've got an issue and you ignore it, it's gonna come back even bigger and worse, usually. So if you see an issue, stop, fix it now. Don't wait and say, oh, it's just a little wobbly. It's gonna be a lot wobbly later. It's just a little off center. Okay, so now I've got a good amount of height, but I wanna do one more pull. So what I'm gonna do is the inside hand will stretch out and the outside hand will come underneath. So it's the outside hand to keep it from being just a big bowl. So it looks like this. Grabbing this clay at the base, squeezing. Once the clay starts to move, then my hands can come up with it. And this is where I feel like speed will help me. Just gonna kick that clay around a little faster, because as it's stretching out and it's thinner up here, again, connecting my hand as soon as I can. And this is where if you record yourself, I bet if I watched myself, I was pulling at the wrong angle. See, it's got like all these twists and stuff, we don't love that. And it got a little wide here, that's okay. But we're gonna go ahead and straighten it up one more time and then we'll shape it. So vertical, start at the bottom, hold it. Rotate, rotate, rotate until it's fixed. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Come up, rotate, rotate, rotate. Okay, so it's a little bit more on track down there, but it's still a little wobbly, so we just, again, well, I could even do this. I could get on either side, scoop it back in. Because again, width equals less height. So as long as we can contain this, then we'll have that nice height. And this ends, the thickness down there just really has some thickness, so trying to bring it up, squeeze down, and this is like that rule of thirds. At the bottom, you need to really squeeze, and up here, you've got to finish the pull, but your pressure really relaxes. And then again, see that hand just draped over to catch on. All right, now we can shape. So don't even think about shaping until you've got your height. If I were to slice this in half now, the wall thickness would be even from the bottom to the top, for the most part. I'll straighten it up one more time. So right there, just, if it's funky, just hold it. Hold it, rotate, rotate. Right, now the shaping, the fun part. So for shaping, I like a rib. And I will go ahead and use this metal rib on the outside because it will help skim off the slip. And since I'm not using a torch to really get a dynamic shape, skimming it off and leaving it dry will be nice and helpful. All right, so I have one rib on the inside, one on the outside, and I'm patiently pressing the clay out. I'm also trying to make sure that my form is not draping over the lip. And I'm kind of allowing the inside hand to press out a little more, but then I'm going to stop where I want the skinny neck to go. You know, where will it transition from width to a more narrow neck? You don't want to stretch the whole thing out. Okay, I think I'll bring out my sponge. And kind of just letting it rotate. And then I'll come up, and I'm going to be easy right there. And then I'm going to come up and press a little harder above. And then it is nice to look in this reflection to see what my form is doing. If anything, we can go a little more. We can maybe control this neck first. Let's put a little more volume. Like here, see? Let's start down here. Kind of transition the bottom. And you can really tell how much you can press on it by how thick you've left the walls. Also how dry it's getting, because if it gets thin and it's really wet from all of the, sponges and water adding, then it's more likely to just bloop, collapse in. But at this point, once you start shaping it, you don't add any more water. In fact, I'm going to bring out the sponge because I see a little bit of water on the inside. I'm going to reach in, try not to touch the neck, the lip, and just soak up the water. Nope, literally just dripped it back in. If you see it shiny down there, leave it dry. And then I'll just shape up a little bit more right here. Creating even more volume. But then keeping this more dynamic, meaning going from wide to more narrow. And let's look at what it's doing. Switch to this, the metal rib will really scrape off some slip. And I'm going to lift and connect this hand, always connect and slow my rib. I'm lifting. I'm just letting it rotate. And then I should also let this one dry up, and then we'll tend to this lip. Get that blended. Might as well give it a little attention right now. Okay. Smooth, smooth, done. She done. So we walk away, we don't overlove. I'm gonna turn the wheel off. And then I like to find the 3 dots because those are the ones on top of the bat pen. And I can take it off. So we'll shape this up a little bit more as she dries. I'm gonna put her over here. Guys, thanks for tuning in. It's fun to throw and to chat. If you've got questions, leave them for me. Or if you're just hanging, whoops, keep hanging. I need to plug my phone in. And look, I did a time lapse. So this time lapse, I'm just seeing if it even got everything. Yep. Okay, so that's good. Let me go plug this phone in. And then hopefully y'all can still hear me. And right here. I got my coffee. It's probably cold now. All right, so we got like 3 more big hunks that we can throw, and then this will be fun. I mean, should I put handles on them? Should I have lids on them? Now that I've kind of talked you through it, if you've got questions, let me know, but also I'll just try to throw. Let me see if I've missed live chat. I've never done the pot thingy. It looks so fun. Swayze. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Yeah, it's addicting. The motto that I have claimed is, who doesn't love clay? Everybody loves clay. Comes from the earth. Every civilization has created with it since the start of humanity and of this earth. So it really is a universal medium. All right, turn it back on. Okay, we'll come up and down that. The tapping, it really helps get it centered, because the first step centering is to make sure it spins without any wobbles. You can see some inconsistencies kind of in it. And this is where it's like, you're not kind of centered. You're either centered or you're not. So you got to really be patient. But by coning up and down and taking your time with wedging and preparing the clay, making sure that it feels smooth, that it feels like there's no air bubbles hiding. Like, see right here, I just ripped off a little bit. So that was just a little inconsistency that needed to rip itself off. Scooping the clay up, keeping it in a cone form, that's important. And look, now it's really nice. Get nice horizontal lines, consistency. We're gonna press it down. We're looking for the anchoring of this left hand, and you see it because you saw the black circle show up. If you saw me do the 2 other ones earlier, I'm gonna try to do this one a little differently. I'm gonna open and compress. I think honestly, the other one I threw with too thin of a bottom. Maybe patch it up once I get back to it. Okay. And now this first pull, we can really squeeze. First pull. Get all this clay here, whatever it takes, knuckles, fingers, get all the clay at the base, get it. Don't start doing your pull until you've gotten that clay. And then both hands squeeze the fatness. Make sure if you're going for height, don't let the inside hand push out and make it wide. Keep it contained like a volcano. Outside hand presses more. It's the outside hand that's the boss. Coming up, hold the lip at the same time so you can compress it. Keeping that kind of volcano shape. It's okay if there's a little, overall it's gradually getting where you need it, and that's what matters. I'm gripping this clay, squeezing hard at the base. About there, the clay wall starts to thin out, so I cannot be as aggressive as I'm pulling the clay. Connecting my hands as soon as I can. Oh, there's the gist. And I am going to be shaping this, but before you shape anything, you just got to get your thickness where you need it to be. So right now, the bottom's thicker. So we're not ready to shape yet. And this is, again, where I can close my eyes. I'm gonna close my eyes, I'm gonna look up, and I'm just feeling it's fat down there, squeeze it. And then you're coming up, and you're letting it rotate. And then here, I am gonna use a little bit of speed, just because it's kind of like a weird transition part, so the faster the wheel goes, if I have control, it helps me just kind of whip it around. All right. And I'll do one more pull. This pull, I'm going to intentionally stretch the clay out from the inside and come back underneath of it from the outside. So I'll look like this. I don't want to get that thin spot that's getting funky on me. I don't want to ignore it. I'm watching it. So as I get here, I'm going to stop and fix that. That we don't like. So vertical, and then 4 fingers. I'm going to start just beneath it and hold it. These 4 fingers are going to be steady. They're not going to bounce. They'll press against that inside hand. Hold it. As many rotations as you need. Hold it. I'm really not even worried about these fingernail or finger marks because the rope's going to go on the outside. I might even just use my hands to scoot this back in. Gosh, no, I just want to do one more pull. Okay, clean the bottom. If you have any questions, drop them. I love a clay question. In fact, I used to have my online membership account, Throwing with Molly. We would meet live on Monday nights. And then I transformed that into my show, Throwing with Molly, where I'd have a guest in season 1 and season 2 are on my YouTube. Go check them out. We've had some great guests. Some of them have never thrown, and in the time we chat, we throw clay. Throwing with Molly, and then the membership's also actually Throwing with Molly. Now, do I want to have like a really long neck on this one? I really don't like a vase with like a really skinny neck because the flowers are just like so tight. So I like it when it's wide, up high enough. But the volume should come gradually. And the ribs are for shaping. So after you've pulled your wall thickness to your even thickness, then you put a rib on it. And by the time you're putting a rib on it, you really shouldn't then put your fingers on it to throw it again. So you want to be kind of decisive and confident. Now I don't like just a one. I want like right here, I want a little bit more lift. So my inside hand is literally lifting this up. We'll stretch. Again, I'm kind of feeling how fat the clay is. And if it's thick, I know I can stretch it a little more. Here it's getting a little thin. So I've got to be a little bit more patient. But I like the volume of it all, right? And then if you see me do, I did 2 earlier, I'm gonna reach in and ultimately I'm gonna just try to put this aside, let it dry up a little bit. And tend to this. A little bit. This is when you gotta lift, and then this metal rib is literally It's literally just a sharp piece of metal. So this will skim off. Stop on your head, don't overlove. Hot clay on my face. And then we'll just let it spin very slow to take off that little drip. Make this smooth just in case we don't get back to mess with this. Okay. And she done. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks for tuning in. Put this over here. I have 2 more balls of clay wedged up, so we'll do one more together, and then I'll see if my phone is charged enough. And we'll have a nice little set of vases. The question will be, how am I going to decorate them? And I'm already looking at the first one thinking, you need to put more volume into it. Okay, that's on. Another hunk of clay. And the more you can tap it around your future self, well, thank you. See, it's like an oblong shape. So before you add water, just tap. I mean, it's oddly satisfying. The clay is the star. Now that it's stuck on there and kind of brown, we will kind it up and kind it down. Turn it up. Now, one time counting up and down is not going to do it. See, if there's some twisties, we don't want that. We want nice horizontal lines. So this first counting up kind of reveals the inconsistencies. As we come down, they kind of press themselves and work themselves out. Always starting at the back and coming to the top. So I'm squeezing. My left hand is anchored in my hip, pushing from my forearm, right under my thumb. And then both thumbs right now are making sure that this stays a cone. They're like pressing like a cone. Because if it gets flat, you get a crater. Still a few more twists. So I might do one more cone up from the bottom. If it gets off center, that's okay. You're the boss. My thumb is straight up. See this thumb? It's straight up holding it. Get to the top. Rotate, rotate. I could just one hand push this back down too. I could do that. So look, just anchoring. Anchoring. Let's see if I can center the whole 7 pounds with one hand. Guys, that should be my highlighter reel, right? Right there. Right there. I too can teach you how to center with one hand. Open. Now I think one of those I made too thin, so I'm gonna not go too thin, pull back, establish my bottom. And then watch this. I'm gonna take this hand and press. Inside hand squeezing, outside hand squeezing, thumbs over top, and watch, it's gonna be like my first pull. Ready? Leaning, leaning, leaning. Inside finger comes up with the palm that's pressing. So that could be one pull too. Get this flared out clay, get it. Get it before you come off the wheel head. Now the other good thing about having already thrown, like, how many of these? This is number 4. They're all 7 pounds. Now I'm in my flow. Now I know about how tall they should be. Now I know about how much I can squeeze. You know how much to really grab down here. This is why clay is all about muscle memory. If you're doing one thing, if you've always wanted to throw big, don't throw one big piece and then say, okay, I'll try again later. No, throw a big piece, and another big piece, another big piece, another one, another one, another one. And then by the end you're like, okay, I feel better about throwing big because I've done it repeatedly. Clay, you can't just do it one time and be like, okay, you have to repeat, build the muscle memory. Letting the inside hand stretch the clay out over over top of the outside hand that's coming right up underneath of it. I've got a wet sponge in my right hand so that the clay doesn't get stuck. And then as I come up, I'm relaxing that pressure. Can't just squeeze hard the whole way, but you have to squeeze hard at the bottom to get the clay up gradually. Right, maybe just one more little pass. And it's important to keep this vertical. And sometimes this is why it's good too to record yourself, because then you'll look back and be like, oh, I was actually really leaning on the wall or on the lip. No wonder it got open on me. You know, who knows? Well, if you record yourself, one, you can share these oddly satisfying videos, and two, you can go back. Like an athlete watches their game tape, you can watch it back and be like, oh, I came up too fast. Oh, whatever. All right, let's get the water out. Only touch it while it's spinning. And I'm just wringing it out. Looking in, is it dry? Is it flat? Can I compress it a little more? Now, I'm gonna rib tool shape it. Trying to let it rotate. And again, you want to get here gradually, so I'm not going to try to stretch out more. I'm just going to come up. And then we'll kind of stop about here, because I do want this to stay narrow. Clean this. This is giving me my curve to press out into. Lifting up, and kind of roll this rib over this shoulder. Getting right to that neck transition, and always just let it rotate, rotate, rotate. I might switch to the metal rib because it will just help take off some of that slip. And again, as you are starting to stretch out the clay, it can get thin, it can get soft if it's really wet. And like I don't like that little overhang, so we want to really apply a little pressure there. So it's more gradual. Just letting it rotate. Now I can kind of come up and play with the thickness. Press it out more, relax where it feels thinner, like right here. Curve it back in, curve back underneath. Really letting the outside rib kind of drive the form. And see the slip that came off? I'm kind of treating this in two curves because now I want another curve. Lifting. And I kind of want this to be pressed in. And this I want to come out, and I don't want it to sag. Rotate, rotate, rotate. I like that. I like her. I'm looking at it in the review here. I do see some water at the bottom, which is not good. If you've done all this work and you just have a wet bottom, it's gonna literally deteriorate the clay and just have a, most likely a crack or some issue at the bottom. So leave it dry, leave it compressed, rotate slowly, soak it all up. And there we go. I'm gonna do one little. Maybe open this a little bit more. Okay. One more thing. This is when you should not overlap. Okay, done. Clean this bad. Put her off. Come back when she's dried up a little bit. Boom. Oh, I'll throw in a vase. Can you imagine it with flowers? Can you imagine it with handles? What can you imagine it having embellished to make it even? Like maybe like a little handle? I don't know, but I like that. All right, putting this over here. And I think I will end the live there. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Catch y'all for the next live. Check out my channel. I've got lots of other pottery videos, how-to videos, and I have my online membership, Throwing with Molly, coming soon too. And I love your questions. Let me check one more time. Shout out to Solomon. Shout out to Emily. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thanks for leaving the love. I'll see y'all at the next one. Hope this helped you throw